of the meeting held on the 28th of June 2024. Moving on to agenda item 2, regarding the minutes of meeting on the 28th of June 2024. Are members content that the minutes are correct? Yeah. Thank you very much. Vote please on that. Thank you. Thank you for that. Agenda item 3. Agenda item 3 is in the declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
Just from me, I'd like to declare an interest in agenda item 12. I will leave the room for the duration of that agenda item.
Thank you, Rachel, for that. Agenda item number 4, public participation. Agenda item number 4 is public participation. Are there any questions or statements from the public for this meeting?
None, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item number 5, economic framework for Yorkshire, North Yorkshire. The next item of business, agenda 5, the economic framework for Yorkshire, North Yorkshire Combined Authority. The framework has been simplified, supporting a strong focus on the scale of Power's investment on transport, and the major challenge we have to address is affordable housing. The proposed revision offers a great emphasis on delivering for our communities and drawing the work of our police, fire, crime colleagues closer into the economic activity. It's a great piece of work by the team, and I'm delighted to hand over to Andrew Limmin, Head of Strategy, who will take us through this report.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to set out a few things from the report just to highlight. So first of all, we agreed back in the March meeting the initial framework, and since then we've been doing further work, taking into account what the newly elected mayor's priorities are, but also to try to simplify the framework a little bit further so that it can start to steer some of the work going forward. So the first part of the report just sets out the initial framework that we agreed, and then it set out some revisions primarily around some of the key connections with the police, fire and crime colleagues in terms of some emphasis around communities, particularly looking around some of the scale of powers and investment around transport, taking the place agenda and starting to look how this connected to things like the green economy and strong culture and heritage. And also that the business and skills sections should be combined so they reflect that strong interconnection between skills and business, and also that housing, because it's a key priority, remains a specific thematic priority. So on page 9, the section 4.3, there's a revised framework diagram that sets out really the 3 ambitions that were as per the original, but with the healthy and thriving community strand in the middle and central to everything that we do, and then 4 strands around the outside, which are around affordable and sustainable transport, vibrant and sustainable places, boosting business and the thriving workforce, and affordable sustainable housing. So they've been developed into a little bit more detail. The full framework document is attached as the annex to the report. As a service is to very much steer the work of the combined authority going forward. And that will provide the next steps, which we'll come on to in some of the further items, which is how this starts to develop into the skills strategy and how it also starts to set out some of our early mayoral investment fund propositions. So the recommendations are to approve the revised economic framework as a strategic document, and I'll open up for any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Do members have any questions for Andrew to follow up on? Yes.
Not so much a question, just to welcome it. I'm particularly pleased to see the link between this MCA and business, and long may that continue. I suppose this will develop. It's a living document, isn't it? And we look with interest at the new government's pledge to devolve even more powers. Hopefully, these strategic documents will reflect that change in landscape as well. So I suppose in summary, what I'm saying is we've we've battled, fought for a mayoral combined authority. This gives the overarching view about what's going to be delivered, and further agenda items are putting the aspirations into practice, and we're seeing delivery now, or we're certainly moving towards delivery.
Thank you, Councillor Dadd. Any more questions? Councillor Kilbane?
Well, in the spirit of Councillor Dadd, it's not a question either. It's more of a statement. And I just really wanted to thank officers for all the work that's gone into this, and in particular for the simplification that's happened, so that we're really clearly focused on the areas that this combined authority wants to focus on. And I think, given the change of government that we've seen and the emphasis that's now been put on delivery, I think this enables us to hit the ground running. So in terms of formulating a plan for growth for the region that we've been asked to do over quite a short time scale, I think having this here means that we've got a really solid foundation on which to build, obviously putting the people and businesses of the region at the heart of all of the work that we do, making sure that our communities can thrive. So look forward to the delivery bit, which I think we're going to come on to later in the meeting as well. But no, just like to again put it on record to thank officers for all the work that's gone into this.
Thank you, Councillor Kilbane. Any more questions on that at all? No. Can I ask for a mover for the recommendation, which can be found on page 11 of the agenda pack? Douglas, second it. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Can we? Oh, sorry. Move to vote. Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 6, York and North Yorkshire Skills Framework Strategy. This is a significant piece of work that has been delivered at pace to ensure we have locally focused approach to skills. The only way we can ensure opportunity for all in a connected and thriving economy is to ensure our skills system can meet the needs of business and our ambitions for growth. I'll hand over to Andrew Lehman, who will take us through the report. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. So again, I'll just pick out some key points on the report, in particularly just a little bit of background around how the skills strategy has been developed. It's been based initially on the previous skills strategy that was developed under the local enterprise partnership, and also the skills plans of the 2 local authorities. And those have been revised and updated to provide the skills strategy as a key basis for the devolution of the Adult Skills Fund, which will come later in the year. It's also been undertaken by the working group for skills and employability as part of their remit, which includes quite a wide variety of organisations and agencies, and acts as a bit of an interim advisory group to support the work around skills, including providers of training. So the key elements here are that the skills strategy set out in section 4 really sets out 4 key ambitions. One around an integrated, flexible and responsive skills system, so it can respond to changing economic needs. It can take on some of those new opportunities that are developed through some of the growth initiatives that have been undertaken. Secondly, really around having access to high quality careers, and in particularly on that is around careers for all, so not just looking at careers for young people, but careers for all ages. Thirdly, to support the needs of business and the skills needs of business in particularly, and fourthly, to look at communities and the needs of communities in developing certainly their first step in terms of skills and developing further their skills. So those 4 overarching ambitions are set out in the diagram on section 4.2. A full strategy document is attached as appendix 1, which sets out a bit more detail for each of those elements. And again, part of the report that we'll be looking at later is to start to put some investment against trying to address some of those initial skills initiatives through the Skills Innovation Fund. and recommendations are that this is approved as a key strategic document. But I think importantly in this context, it provides the context and the basis for the Adult Skills Fund, which will be devolved to the Combined Authority in the coming year. So I'll open for any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Do members have any questions for Andrew on this? Please, Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to thank everybody that's been involved with developing this skills strategy and framework. It really has been across area from York and North Yorkshire, and a combination of local authority, combined authority and business input as well, which is really welcomed. And I think it's very important that it recognises the different skills needs of different age of population in our region and different situations that they find themselves in. And over time, and I hope that will be quite promptly, but over time it will give opportunity to everybody across York and North Yorkshire to take the next step either on their careers or the first step on their career, and to improve our economy and opportunities generally across the region for everybody. So I think it's a great piece of work, and I really look forward to the adult education budget being devolved. We already have the legal capacity to do that, but in the next 12 months we will start to see that come into action. It's a really exciting opportunity. So thanks to everybody for the work involved in it.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Any questions on anything at all? No? Okay. Can I ask for a mover for the recommendations which can be found on page 68 of the agenda pack?
Moved.
A seconder. And can we move to a vote, please? Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Agenda item 7, which is calls for projects. The 4 funds that will be discussed under this item are intended to ignite innovation in the region. It is our role to support businesses and organisations to try new things, tackle challenges head on, and to collaborate. That is what these funds are all about, bringing people together so we can listen and learn and deliver real benefits from devolution. If progress is approved on these calls today, my hope is that the resulting funds will tackle the key challenges and opportunities we have been told about our communities and partners. High street businesses have had extremely challenging few years and need support to adapt and thrive in the future. Our high streets play an important role in our economy and as a focal point for our communities. The call seeks to put high streets businesses at the heart of the change and growth on high streets. Achieving net zero is a national challenge. I know we can build on great work that has happened already in York and North Yorkshire and to go further and achieve carbon negative economy. Because we have to go further, the call invites the challenge to innovate even further. Businesses tell us that they want the best talent and their workforces to have the right skills to place to support their ambitions for growth. The proposed skills innovation fund invites challenge to how skills system can be more integrated and flexible to meet these needs. Our call for business innovation funds seek to further unlock potential and further feed the innovation that can drive up productivity. Vitally, by introducing the call for projects in this way, we can continue to work in partnership with the region to develop these further ahead of launching them. That way, we can be confident that investment funds will deliver real impact for communities and our economy in York and North Yorkshire. I will now hand once again to Andrew Lehman to talk us through the paper, and I invite your consideration on these proposed funds. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you again. The Mayor has just set out some key points around these funds, but I just thought I'd give a little bit of background that's set out in the paper about how we've got to the proposals. So it's based on the revised economic framework, which was agreed earlier, and we were looking through doing a bit of analysis on each of the themes and how we could start to utilise some of the mayoral investment fund as flexibly as possible to look at how we could start to deliver against some of those opportunities that set out in those streams. So the first part of the report really sets out the fact that under the healthy and thriving community side, although there's nothing directly associated with this and obviously some benefits will come from some of the investments. We are developing the cost of living plan that was agreed at the previous CA meeting, and hopefully we'll be coming back further with some proposals to look at how we can support that Healthy and Thriving Communities programme. Under the Affordable Sustainable Transport strand of the framework, we very much see, following some early investments in transport, that the investment funds around transport that will be provided as part of devolution will start to fill some of the gaps under transport. So moving on to the sort of vibrant, sustainable places, it was determined that there's potentially two key strands here, one around how we create vibrant, sustainable high streets, and also how we start to look at addressing some of the challenges around becoming a carbon negative region. So the view was to establish some calls for proposals under these two strands. And then moving on to boosting business and thriving workforce, we were looking at these two elements and set out a proposal for a business innovation fund and a skills innovation fund, really again to look at some of the challenges affecting these two key themes. So in the annexes, there's a very brief outline of the proposed funds, and the next stage will be to develop each one of these four strands into a detailed prospectus that will go out for a call. We're looking for those to be going out in around October time to seek applications for funding. The report also sets out an indicative allocation for each one. So we're looking for a 4-year programme of 10 million for the Carbon Negative Challenge Fund. This very much builds on the success that we had under the Net Zero Fund, which was an early part of our devolution deal. A £10 million allocation for the High Street Fund for a 4-year period. And then a £5 million investment in the Business Innovation Fund, which would just be the initial 2 years, which allows us to then review and build on that potentially for future years. And then a £2.5 million Skills Innovation Fund, because that will very much lead into the Adult Skills Fund provision once it comes. So that's for proposals for the indicative allocations. As I say, the next steps will be to develop the full prospectus and application pack for each fund. And that will be done in consultation with the members of this combined authority, but also key stakeholders and partners. First one of those is a meeting tomorrow with some of the high street businesses to talk about the High Street Fund and get their views. So the recommendations in the report primarily set out an agreement to those indicative allocations for each one of those funds. But also that there is a recommended up to a maximum of 5% allocated to be utilised to manage and administer those funds. But that's very much a maximum so that we can actually successfully deliver them. And also it's seeking to seek the approved delegation to the Chief Executive in consultation with CA members to sign off a full prospectuses, so they won't come back to this combined authority as prospectuses, but then can go out and launch for schemes. So I will open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions from members at all?
Just timelines, Andrew. Can you just repeat those? I think you alluded to it. What's the process going forward? What I'm keen to avoid is any unnecessary delays and bureaucracy around it, because we need to get on with it.
Yeah, so the timeline is that if approved today, we will start to draw the detailed prospectus. There'll be a number of meetings during the summer, early September, with stakeholders to form those, and we're hoping that we will be able to launch the funds in October.
Councillor Kilbane.
Again, thank you, Mayor. And again, just wanted to welcome the report and thank all the staff who've worked on this. It's been through many iterations since we all first met to discuss the economic framework for York and North Yorkshire, which seems like a different lifetime. And it's great to see if the economic framework is the skeleton, then this is putting the flesh on the bones. So actually getting some of the mayoral funds out the door and into the communities and the businesses where they need to be. And it's really good to see this coming forward. You know, a fair chunk of a commitment to get us up and running. So just to say to any businesses or training providers or colleges out there, you know, get yourself switched onto this, because there's real money to be had if you're on the agenda when it comes to carbon negative, to revitalising our high streets, to innovating in our businesses, and also innovation in the way that we deliver our skills. So this is the direction by which we'll start to be able to deliver the changes that we need to see in the region if we are going to be thriving and sustainable into the future. This is the way that the door is being opened, and that's what a mayoral combined authority can do. We look forward to working with all our partners, both education providers as well as businesses, to maximise the capacity as we start to transform the region and take it into the future. So this is a very first step, and it's only a little step, but it is the first step, and it's within the first 100 days of being elected mayor. So congratulations on that to you and your team, and warmly welcome this call for projects.
Thank you, Councillor Kilbane. Any more points on that? Can I ask for a move on the recommendations, which can be found on page 120 of the agenda pack? Yeah, and the seconder. And can we have a vote on that as well? Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Now on to agenda item 8, the approval of the Brownfield Housing Fund round 2. Through the Brownfield Housing Fund, the Combined Authority has already approved the delivery of 700 homes in York and North Yorkshire. With the existing approvals for the Brownfield Housing Fund, further approvals today will bring us closer to 1,000 new homes, with nearly half of those being affordable homes. It's great news, but there's a lot more to achieve on this. The nature of Brownfield Housing Fund is that it will inevitably create more capacity in urban areas, which is greater capacity for the development of brownfield. It's great news for the reason that we can develop 977 new homes. However, my ambition is to find ways to develop more homes that meet the needs of our rural communities. It's a huge challenge for us, but one that we need to meet. We're working in partnership with Yorkshire and Humber Housing Partnership, and I will continue to prioritise this issue and bring forward more progress. Liz Philpott, head of the delivery, will now take us through the paper to consider a further round of approvals. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So the paper taken as read highlights the earlier allocation to 16 sites of the Brownfield Housing Fund for York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority. The total available funds of 12.7 million were committed up to a point of 9.6 million just before Christmas, December 23. That left us with a balance of 3 million unallocated from the programme, and it was agreed in February to proceed with a round 2 call for projects that on this occasion was issued to local authorities and registered housing providers. We received 6 applications in response to that call for further projects, and of those 6 we did an initial gateway assessment and divided the 6 into 2 tranches of 3, hence the report that we have today that covers phase 1. The first 3 of the 6. So if I could just mention the second phase, which we will, in accordance with the recommendation at 12.5, subject to approval, we'll bring that back to the executive at the next meeting on the 6th of September. But just to say that those 3 projects are running on a slightly slower timescale due to a number of issues around proposed timescales for delivery and needing to meet the required timelines for the programme from Department of Housing, Levelling Up and Communities. There were some planning issues, land ownership and securing additional match funding around those, which puts them on a slightly slower timescale until those issues are worked through. So the first 3 that we're talking about in the recommendation to actually approve allocations today is a total amount of, sorry, I've just got Microsoft pop-ups, which I don't want. A total of the first 3 projects for Blind Lane, at Askew, Linton on Ouse and Cocoa Gardens phases 3 to 5 in York. And the total request is 4.298 million. So we had just highlighted there's 3 million remaining in the programme. So part of the recommendation in this paper, which has been discussed with the Mayor and the local authority elected members, is to actually enhance the amount of funding available in this fund through the Mayoral Investment Fund, and that's reflected in the recommendations here. So there's another issue that I need to highlight for Blind Lane Askew. At the time of writing the report, in section 5.4, we'd highlighted that we were revisiting the appraisal process. We had in the appendix, it can be noted at Appendix B, it still shows the original figures where there was a slightly lower recommendation being considered, but we reworked through the appraisal for that project, and we took the process through a scenario of no brownfield housing grant that would result in a 15% reduction in quality, and in that event a benefit cost ratio of over 1 could be achieved, which actually leads us to a recommendation for the full amount to be awarded as per the application. So the paper is actually written on that basis. That say there's a slight amendment to the annex Appendix B needed to reflect that revised figure of the 1.232 for Blind Lane Askew, but the recommendations do reflect that maximum amount as part of the approval. So say just to summarise, the 3 million is the remaining unallocated balance from the brownfield housing funding that's come from DLUC. The request today is for an additional 1.298 million to be made available from the Mayoral Investment Fund, and that will actually at this point on that phase 1 of round 2 result in 311 additional homes being delivered, 181 of which are affordable, and a total investment of £93 million. We will, as stated at recommendation 12.5, bring back more detail around the other 3 phase 2 projects, and if we can get those to a stage where we can recommend allocations and that they proceed as part of the programme, the total ask potentially would be a further 3.36 million, which in total would request 4.634 million from the Mayoral Investment Fund. But at this point in time, it's the additional 1.298 which forms part of the recommendation at 12.2 to be considered. So I think unless there's any further questions, that's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz, do members have any questions? Yes, Councillor Douglas. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, it's not a question. I just wanted to say how welcome this investment in our region is, and the ability to build on brownfield site is hugely important, because I think we're all well aware that is the first place that we should be building in order to bring additional affordable housing into our region across York and every corner of North Yorkshire as well. So much in the same vein as Councillor Kilbane called out to folks to pay attention to what's happening and the opportunities that this brings across the region in the Mayoral Investment Fund. I would also say for brownfield housing as well, because I'm sure that this will be something that will come back again, and it is a great use of land where it's appropriate. And I couldn't be happier to see that we've between round 1 and this first phase of round 2, we will be supporting over 1,000 new homes, and of which nearly 500 are affordable, which is absolutely fantastic for our communities across the region. So this is great news, and thank you for bringing this forward so quickly as well. It's very welcomed, and I'm sure people will really look forward to being able to move into those homes at a point that I hope isn't too distant in the future. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Any more questions there at all? Happy. Can I ask for a mover for the recommendations, which can be found on page 145 of the agenda pack? Councillor Kilbane, and a seconder. And can we move to a vote? Thank you. Agenda item 9 is the finance update, which will be presented by Debbie Mitchell, the interim director of resources. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. So this report just provides a very high-level overview of the financial position at Q1 and asks members to approve some specific funding. So the road renewal funding is something that was announced late in 2023, and specific allocations were set out for each council. Now that the combined authority is in place and is the region's transport authority, this funding has been paid through to the combined authority rather than to the constituent council. So the funding will be allocated through to both constituent councils, and members are just asked to formally approve this as it wasn't part of the original budget. In terms of the budget monitoring update, we're still at an early stage in the delivery of some of our programmes, and we're still developing our finance team to enable a more comprehensive monitoring process going forward. So this is just an initial update with a bit of a high-level overview, and some work will be done in the coming months just to improve the budget profile so that we can more accurately compare the kind of budget to actual for each quarter, and to work more closely with managers to develop a forecast. And because it's already been in a couple of the reports that you've considered already today, I haven't included in here an overview of allocations made today from the Mayoral Investment Fund, but of course going forward that'll be a regular feature so that you can just keep an eye on what's available and what's allocated. That was it.
Thank you very much. Debbie, do members have any questions at all? No. Can I ask for a move on the recommendations, which can be found on page 164 of the agenda pack? A seconder. Yep. And move to vote. And I'd just like to thank on behalf of the combined authority for all the hard work you've done, Debbie, as the interim director of resources. Thank you very much. Agenda item 10, which will be presented by Rachel Antonelli, interim head of legal, the Adult Skills Fund.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, temperamental. This report proposes an amendment to the Constitution to include additional delegations to facilitate the governance arrangements in relation to the Adult Skills Fund. The report can be found from page 167 onwards of the agenda pack. This paper comes further to a previous paper which was brought to the January Combined Authority meeting relating to the Skills and Employability Working Group, which is now up and running. A governance framework is now being established, including the creation of an operational programme board, which will be officer-led. As part of this framework, it's become necessary to look to amend the Constitution to add delegations to the Chief Executive to allow for operational day-to-day functions to be carried out. A full list of the proposed delegations can be found at Appendix A at 169 in the agenda pack. There is one proposed amendment within Appendix A, and that relates to the first delegation, which is making interim changes to the York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority Adult Skills Fund Strategic Skills Plan in response to new emerging economic needs, crisis or responsiveness. It's proposed that this delegation is amended to include consultation with the Mayor before the Chief Executive makes this decision. There are two recommendations for the Combined Authority to consider today. First, seeking a delegation of the functions to the Chief Executive, subject to the consultation amendment I've just mentioned, and secondly, provision around making the necessary amendments to the Constitution. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Do members have any questions? Yes, Councillor Cobain.
There we go. I think it's only one at a time, isn't it? Well, very well organised, two at a time. Okay, good. We could do some of that in York. Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for the amendment, because there is a slight concern that if the Chief Executive is left to act on their own, then that puts them in rather an invidious position. We can all understand the circumstances where we need to be quick in changing direction if needs arise. Hopefully it won't, but it can do. But I think, you know, in consultation or even in agreement with the Mayor, that change of direction? I don't know, is consultation the right word, or is agreement the word we should be using here?
Yeah. Would you like to come in on that?
I would suggest consultation. I think it'd be a very foolish chief officer not to take heed of the advice of an elected mayor.
In that case, very happily go with consultation. But I think it is important that we keep that democratic oversight into if there is going to be a sudden and necessary change of direction. But we need that accountability.
Agree on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. I just wanted to say that then accords with any other urgent decision that the Chief Executive may want to make in accordance with the Constitution.
Any further questions? Can I ask for a move for the recommendations which can be found on 168 of the agenda pack?
Moved.
And a seconder. And can we move to a vote, possible? Thank you, everyone. Agenda item 11 is the pay policy statements. Jeffs, the interim head of HR, will present this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So Appendix 1 of my report is the updated pay policy statement, and in summary, the update relates to the TUPE transfer of colleagues from the Office Police Fire and Crime Commission and the Fire Service. You'll see that the Fire Service have got their own pay policy in terms of their own governance arrangements. So there's a link to that in here, and then there's details of salaries and other information about OPFCC relevant colleagues. And I just wanted to highlight in terms of my recommendation that the reason for the update to this is to comply with Section 38 of the Localism Act 2011. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do members have any questions at all? Okay. Can I ask for a move on the recommendation which can be found on page 174 of the agenda pack? And a seconder, please. Thank you. And then can we move to a vote, please, on this? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. At this point, agenda item 12. Thank you. Agenda item 12 is the appointment of the head of legal and monitoring officers. So Jess will again present this report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of the purpose of this report, I'm asking that the Combined Authority approve the overall recruitment process for the head of legal / monitoring officer. In terms of that, I'm seeking formal approval to establish an appointment subcommittee and to delegate sufficient powers to that subcommittee to enable them to conduct the recruitment process, select and appoint a candidate, and that is all subject to the requirements of the Combined Authorities Constitution and the Local Government and Housing Act 1989. So in terms of the background to this, in January, there were a number of statutory key posts that were signed off, with the head of legal being the final one. There was an agreement to wait for approximately 4 months post the TUPE transfer of the OPFCC and fire staff in May until anybody was appointed permanently into that post. So we've had interim arrangements continue up until now. We have had the role benchmarked in terms of head of legal, and you'll see the details in there around the grading for that. And so we're looking at doing a normal kind of recruitment campaign, which will be a national campaign supported by North Yorkshire Resource and Solutions, who are engaged on a service level agreement. So at 3.5, I set out 3 proposed options in terms of a recruitment timeline. I don't propose to read them through. I'll take them as read, and they'll be part of the recommendations in terms of your approvals. In terms of the appointment subcommittee, the suggestion is that that would be made up by the mayor, the leader or deputy leader of City of York Council, the leader or deputy leader of North Yorkshire Council, the chief executive, and supported by myself. And as part of that recruitment process, we'll also engage and have a number of stakeholders involved in that recruitment and the stakeholder panels. So in terms of my recommendations, which are at point 9.1 to 9.4, the first one is for you to consider and approve the recruitment process for the head of legal, including the proposal to set up a subcommittee to appoint a candidate to the role. 9.2 is to agree which of the preferred data sequences in 3.5 A to C of the report that you want to go with. In terms of 9.3, I'm asking for nominations for the appointment panel to do that under separate cover from today's meeting. And 9.4, really importantly, is if at any point through the recruitment campaign or process you feel that there isn't a suitable candidate, either through shortlist or selection, that I'll bring back a proposed way forward to a future combined authority meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have members have any questions at all? Yes, please.
Sorry, I should have sought clarity beforehand. On the appointments committee, I'm assuming that the chief executive would not have a vote on that.
Through you, Chair. This is a member appointment, so the what's suggested to be on the committee would be the mayor, either the leader or deputy of each of the constituent councils, and they will be the members having a voting right. The chief executive obviously has a vested interest in this, and it's suggested that the chief executive attends those as well, but the voting right will be the members.
Thanks for that clarity. It just wasn't as I read 3.6, it wasn't clear.
Thank you very much for confirming that. Would you like to go through these recommendations one at a time? Because then we obviously have to agree on the actual point on 9.2. Is that okay? So recommendation 9.1. Can we have a mover on 9.1 and a seconder on that? And then should we vote separately on this individually on each recommendation, Elizabeth? Yeah. And then can we vote on 9.1? Thank you. 9.2, which is the preferred timeline. Option B was the proposed one, if possible.
It's your proposal, isn't it, Mayor? So perhaps if you say that, then we can vote on that.
Okay. My proposal will be to go for option B. Can we have a move on that?
I'll second it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then 9.3. Just I'm sorry. And then move to the vote on that one. Sorry. Yeah. And then 9.3. Move on 9.3. And a seconder on that. Yeah. And then vote on 9.3. And then the same again on 9.4, a mover on 9.4, seconder, and a vote on that. Thank you very much. Barry would be able to get fixed. Thanks very much. That felt quite long-winded on that point. Sorry, Lush. Very much. Next agenda item is forward plan. We'll move on to the forward plan, which will take us read. We move to the forward plan taken up to the 31st of May 2025.
Thank you, Chair. Members will be quite familiar with this document by now, so I don't propose to go through it in its entirety. But by way of explanation, the forward plan is a statutory document that the combined authority has to have to give sufficient notice of decisions which it intends to make in an open and transparent way. With the combined authority last looked at the forward plan at its annual meeting on the 31st of May, and there have been some changes since that draft was published, which I'll just summarise as they relate to the next meeting in September. Those are decisions that were due to come to this meeting in July around the skills commissioning framework, the draft strategic local plan and the key route network, which are now going to the September meeting. And then there is a new item, which is the phase 2 of the Brownfield Housing Fund, which if members have already been referred to in this meeting. So I've nothing further to add on the forward plan unless members have any questions, but I will just remind members that it's very much a live document. It's updated on a regular basis, and these meetings will see the most current version in the current form. Thank you.
We can now move on to the forward plan. It will take it as read, and we can approve the forward plan. Take us up to the 31st of May 2025. Agenda item 14, urgent business. There's one item of urgent business which I'll hand over to the head of legal to provide further information. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. A decision was made and published on the 17th of July to include as an item of urgent business paper on local transport functions and funding allocations for the region. The decision is a key decision with notice being published in the case of special urgency in accordance with the Constitution of the Combined Authority and also the Combined Authorities Overview and Scrutiny Committee's Access to Information and Audit Committee's Order 2017. Andrew Leaming and I will present the paper in a moment. However, I wanted to set out the reasons for the urgency. Both City of York Council and North Yorkshire Council have received funding allocations from the Department for Transport for this financial year. The funding has to be spent by the end of this financial year. The next meeting of the Combined Authority is in September, and each constituent authority has to have in place their plans to allow for the funding to be utilised across the region. Therefore, the time-critical nature of the funding would give insufficient time for them to be able to make onward funding arrangements to best effect. A special meeting of the Combined Authority was considered but disregarded due to it being the August recess period. Whilst it's accepted that the urgency process prevents pre-scrutiny taking place, the substantive report allows for additional reporting to ensure that the Combined Authority maintains adequate oversight of functions delegated. I took the decision in my capacity of Interim Deputy Monitoring Officer for the Combined Authority in accordance with delegations given to me by the Interim Monitoring Officer originating from the Constitution.
Thank you. I'll ask Andrew Leaming and Rachel now to present the report, Local Transport Functions and Funding Allocations for York and North Yorkshire. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Mayor. Andrew, I'll start with the technical legal side, if that's okay. Brilliant. Thank you. My input in relation to this report is around the legal aspects of the delegations and powers. Andrew can provide the technical detail if required. This report can be found within the supplementary agenda pack, which was circulated last week. As I've just mentioned, the report provides an update to the Combined Authority on funding allocations provided by the Department for Transport to each council. In addition, the report provides an overview of recent changes to local transport functions in the region in light of the creation of the Combined Authority, which are of relevance in relation to the bus service improvement plans. Paragraph 1.2 of the report outlines the background to the recommendations. I wanted to point out, as a point of clarification, that this paragraph should read that the approval is sought is to delegate specific local transport functions, in particular in relation to bus service improvement plans. Paragraph 3 of the report provides the background to the funding and the bus service improvement plans and confirmation that work has been undertaken to review existing plans in readiness for the delivery phase. As I've said, the funding is time critical, must be used by the end of this financial year. Paragraph 3.5 of the report provides a legal outline of the functions which will now rest with the Combined Authority, with the Mayor also having specific delegations in relation to approval of plans, which includes bus service improvement plans. The recommendations can be found on page 6 of the supplementary agenda pack and consists of 4 recommendations. The first is for noting in respect of the funding. The second recommendation approves the specific delegations for this financial year to enable the constituent authorities to put into effect their bus service improvement plans. Thirdly, there is a specific delegation to the Chief Executive to sign agreements with each authority around these functions. And finally, that the Combined Authority note the next step, which is for the plans to be submitted to the Mayor for consideration. Andrew, you've got anything you want to add?
Not a great deal I need to add in a way, but just to point out under section 3 that the bus service improvement plan funding came from government, which was launched under the Network North plan by government back in October 2023. Each local authority since that point has put together its bus service improvement plan, and it's gone through each of the local authorities in that context. So both local authorities have approved those plans with the funding that's set out in 3.2. and those plans themselves set out what actually the additional works are that are going to be undertaken, or services that are going to be undertaken. Those plans now just need to be agreed by the Mayor as set out in the report.
Thank you both. Do members have any questions? No, okay. Can I ask for a mover for the recommendation, which can be found on page 5 of the supplementary agenda pack, and a seconder? And can we move to a vote, please? Very much. That is the end of the agenda for today's meeting. I want to thank everyone for their comments and approvals that today have moved us forward to deliver frameworks on which to build our growth plans and shape our skills system, the opportunity to further develop almost £30 million of funding for innovation and further progress towards new and affordable housing. I look forward to continue to work closely as we develop these plans further and move towards delivery. It's absolutely vital that we deliver devolution hand in hand with the people in our communities of York and North Yorkshire, and so having members of the public join us in these meetings is so important and highly valued. Thank you again for all your time and commitment over these early weeks of the tenure as Mayor. I'm looking forward to shaping our growth plans with you and collaborating together and shape our vision for York and North Yorkshire as a vibrant place and opportunity for all. The meeting will now close and the live broadcast will now stop.